The event opens not with speeches, but with music. Traditional Venezuelan gaitas fill the air as a group of musicians plays and sings, setting a festive tone. Cadets, officers and local residents clap along. It is a cold afternoon in the mountain parish of El Junquito on the outskirts of Caracas, and the chill is visible in people's breath. The mood, however, is warm and celebratory. In this setting, the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, appears on screen, wrapped up against the highland cold and smiling as he greets the audience. He comments on the sharp temperature drop, joking about how different it feels for Venezuelans when the thermometer falls to around 15 degrees. He points out the surrounding mountains and the nearby communities, sending greetings to the people of El Junquito and other neighboring areas, and highlighting the parish's identity as a montañera community. From the start, he stresses that this is not just a protocol visit. He explains that the government is in the middle of what he calls a permanent, multi-dimensional offensive, a broad effort to strengthen institutions, deliver public works, and reinforce the country's security and defense structures in the face of what he describes as external threats and pressures. He frames this visit to the Police Academy and Security University as part of that project. Maduro stands before a formation of cadets at the National Experimental University for Security's Police Academy in El Junquito, accompanied by the Interior Minister, senior officers, and local authorities. He tells the students that what is being built there is a model of police training designed for a new era. To underline the seriousness of that training, he recites, almost like a teacher reading a syllabus, the number of academic hours their program contains, hundreds of hours of general education, thousands of hours in police training, physical conditioning, culture, and sports, as well as specialized instruction in constitutional law, national and international law, and the legal use of force. He insists that all this is meant to form integral human beings, not only professionals. Police officers, he says, must be physically prepared, culturally rooted, and deeply trained in the constitutional limits of their authority. He emphasizes that the Constitution reserves the use of weapons and force to the state in order to guarantee the existence of the Republic, internal peace, public security, social coexistence, and development. From there, he moves to doctrine. He tells the cadets that they must study the concept of defensa integral de la patria, the integral defense of the homeland, and from that core idea derive both theory and practice. He insists that they must understand and internalize not only professional police techniques, but also the broader Bolivarian doctrine that, in his view, guides the state's security strategy. That doctrine, as he describes it, combines resistencia popular prolongada, prolonged popular resistance with all forms of popular military and police struggle, as well as what he calls the second major line, the permanent offensive of the homeland. He ties this doctrine directly to current events. Maduro refers to weeks of tension and what he calls threats of imperial aggression. Without naming foreign leaders, he describes these as illegal, disproportionate, and unnecessary threats that, in his words, violate the United Nations Charter and international law. He insists that Venezuela has never been and will never be a threat to the United States. At one point, he delivers a line he clearly once remembered, declaring, Maduro said, Venezuela no ha sido, no es ni será nunca una amenaza a los Estados Unidos de Norteamérica. Al contrario, Venezuela no es amenaza. Venezuela es garantía de seguridad de todo el continente americano. Venezuela es esperanza. The audience applauds as he repeats the word esperanza, hope, and calls on the cadets to see themselves as part of that mission. Maduro then assigns homework. Speaking like a professor addressing his class, he announces that every student in the academy must write a reflection. He explains that he wants to receive in their own handwriting a text in which they answer a central question. What more can the homeland do to reinforce this permanent offensive and guarantee peace under any circumstances in the months and years ahead? He sets a tight deadline and says he expects the papers within 24 hours, underlining that he genuinely wants to read their ideas. He tells them that he feeds off their moral strength, that their perseverance and patriotism are what renew his own. He then introduces a concept he has been talking about in other speeches, national power. He explains to the cadets that in many countries, when people speak of power, they only refer to the formal public branches of government, the executive, legislative and judicial powers, and often claim these institutions function independently. In his view, this is misleading. He argues that in many nations, oligarchies and foreign interests dominate those powers from behind the scenes. By contrast, he says, Venezuela has developed what he calls a new integral power of the 21st century, a power that aggregates all forces in society so the homeland can advance on every front. He describes this power as resting on several pillars. First, there is social power, the organized strength of communities, communal councils, social movements, farmers, workers, students, women, older people, indigenous peoples and Afro-descendant communities. Second, he points to political power, which he associates with the movements and parties that operate within the country's political system. Third, he describes economic power, rooted in what he calls a new national economy built on 13 motores, or engines, with the goal of reducing dependence on external actors and liberating productive forces. He then turns to what he considers the most profound component, national identity. He says the greatest power Venezuela has is its spiritual and cultural identity, the combination of the people's faith, traditions, music, and way of being. He recalls how in homes across the country, families keep small altars, light candles, and pray. At one point, he declares, Maduro said, Somos un país que entregué a nuestro Señor Jesucristo para siempre. He describes this spirituality as something that goes beyond human understanding and insists that what is happening in Venezuela, in his words, the country's survival and its gradual recovery is a miracle of God. That faith, he says, has allowed Venezuelans to overcome hardships and move toward what he portrays as prosperity, peace, joy, and happiness. The president also asks his audience to value the country's historical figures. He names indigenous resistance leaders, independence heroes, and Hugo Chavez, and urges gratitude for what he calls their trajectories and sacrifices. But, he insists, above all, one must give thanks to God that Venezuela is a country with a soul. From there, he returns to more institutional terrain. He describes the military power that, according to him, the state has been building through the Bolivarian National Armed Forces and the expansion of the Bolivarian militia as a pueblo en armas, the people in arms. He presents this as a defensive force meant to safeguard sovereignty and deter aggression. He then lays out how the formal public powers fit into this broader idea of national power. The judiciary, which he says is undergoing permanent transformation and improvement. The electoral authority, which he describes as highly technological and tested in dozens of electoral processes. The legislature, which he portrays as actively making laws. The citizen power, including the Attorney General, Comptroller and Ombudsman, and the executive, which he describes as a constitutional and legitimate government elected by the people and governing daily. Desde la gente,